Good afternoon. This is Talk the Home of Common Sense. 12:37 is the time. Let's go straight to my next guest now. Who's Debbie Hayton, who's a journalist, teacher and author of Transsexual Apostate, My Journey Back to Reality. Very good afternoon to you, Debbie.
Good afternoon, Julie.
Thank you very much, Dee, for joining us. Now, look, I just want to clarify for people who don't already know who you are. You're regular on the show, but you are a man who chooses to live as if you were a woman, but you are fully aware of your biological reality, and you've often written and fought back against people who want to deny that reality, haven't you?
Well, yes, and everybody else in my real life existence knows that either. There's no point hiding anything, and I don't want to hide anything.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. So what was your reaction just initially when you saw the reports this morning, waking up to the horrible, horrible news of this mass school shooting in Canada? At least 9 killed, the shooter then turning the gun on themselves, 25 injured in this tiny little British Columbian town. When you saw the reports and it was claiming that it was a female in a dress with brown hair, did you, like me, did your spidey senses immediately just go, women largely don't commit mass shootings? Indeed, in Canada and the UK, there's no record of a woman ever doing so. And in America, it's the tiniest handful of cases involving women. Did you immediately think, I bet this isn't a woman?
I thought it was an odd way to actually describe the person who'd been doing the shooting. But that aside, I was just horrified yet again. I'm a teacher. Children I teach come to school to learn. And this is a tiny secondary school in the middle of the countryside. Apparently it has 160 children from years 8 to 13.
Yeah.
You know, this is a dreadful tragedy. And then I looked at the reports and I thought, I thought, this doesn't make sense to me. How can I make this make sense? And we shouldn't be doing that. Looking through what's actually happened, that report, I think, was taken from the initial police warning that went out. And yeah, if you see a figure that might look like a woman from a distance wearing a dress, take cover, because that's the person we're talking about. But clearly, the person who's doing the shooting is now dead, and it poses no further threat. And it's really incumbent on the RCMP in Canada and the Canadian news media organisations, our news organisations, to put the record straight.
Yeah.
It helps nobody to hide behind obfuscations and in clarity. It's right that people know the truth about this, and not to hide.
And it does matter. I mean, people will be very specific about, someone arriving in a school at 10:24 or be very specific about these things. Well, we need to be specific about who commits the crime. And we've had this issue. I mean, Scotland has gone completely mad on it, but mainstream media in this country and in America and in Canada has really, really gone woke crazy on this stuff. Will routinely, newspapers here and online here will routinely report things which are factually untrue. They will report that a boy has died or a girl has died when actually it is the opposite sex because they don't want to misgender. I mean, and not correct it. And some of the time I'm actually going, I actually don't know who this person is, and yet this is one of the most key facts. We know people's names and we know their sex. That's kind of like the key, and their age. Those are kind of the key facts about people because they are the most relevant facts. But in particular, in the case of violent crime, largely women don't commit violent crime. I mean, some small, few instances, but the vast majority of women who are behind bars in this country and in every country are for non-violent offences. So when there is a very, very horrific violent crime involving multiple victims, instantly every journalist at the BBC, ITV, Sky and everywhere else should be going, this probably isn't a woman. We'll be careful about this. But they didn't do that. They stuck to it. They didn't do any investigation. But we know if it was a victim who was trans, because we understand this is a 15-year-old boy who identifies as a girl, gun crazy. If it had been a trans victim, they'd have talked non-stop about that, as they did about the tragedy of the killing of Brianna Ghey, who was a boy, who was living as if he was a girl and was treated as a girl by his parents, and he was killed. He was not targeted for being gay, but most of the media reports go on and on and on about this trans killing because he was trans identified, but they ignore it when it's the perpetrator. Why do you think
Well,
that is?
it seems to be that being trans makes you some sort of special human being, different to everybody else. It's total nonsense, Julie. It really is. We're exactly the same as everybody else, with the same failings as everybody else, and it's our responsibility to contribute the same as everybody else to our societies and communities. But we've told this lie to children and their parents that they can be the opposite sex, they can be who they like. And this lie is a serious lie, and it's one that children have built their lives up over, and it's hollow, and there's nothing there. And standing aside from this case, I worry about mentally distressed children in severe psychological distress who have been told that identifying as trans can be the answer to all your problems, and everybody is going to listen to you, and you don't need to listen to your parents anymore because you know something special, and there's nothing there. And when the children see there's nothing there, what is left for them? And taking responsibility should be doctors, it should be politicians, it should be the people who have enabled this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is extraordinary that we're still in this scenario in our schools. And again, it's all being perpetrated by teachers. It's happening in our schools and in our universities, and of course our politicians as well, and certainly in the NHS. One set of politicians are particularly bad on this. The SNP, the Scottish National Party, they spent, now it appears, more than £1 million of taxpayers' hard-earned money on failed legal cases, arguing that biologically male trans-identified people should be defined as women in particular, so they can put them into women's prisons. Seems to be a big thing. But case after case, that Supreme Court ruling on gender last April, and then battling other big cases largely against For Women Scotland, that brilliant campaign group. But they're battling right now desperately in court for the right to put men, even men who've committed violence, not against women now, they've given up on that one, but men against violence against other. You could be a man who's murdered a man, but they want the right of that man, if he calls himself Sheila, to go into a women's prison. I mean, this is insane. If you've got the politicians spending hard-earned taxpayers' money fighting legal cases to basically live a lie.
And spending other people's money to do it. It's not their own money they're spending, it's other people's money. And you'd think they'd learn after the Isla Bryson fiasco several years ago. Well, how do these people not learn? But it's really down to the public of Scotland not to re-elect these people, but that we need to wait for the ballot box for that.
Yeah, I mean, again, the British public, largely, Scottish, Welsh, Irish and English, don't have any time for this. It's a very small minority of people. Unfortunately, the minority of people are in basically the media classes, the quangos, leading the NHS, leading the BBC, leading politicians. They have captured so many of the police, leading police chiefs. They've captured so many top echelons of our institutions. How do we break away from this? And by the way, people, want to live, want to wear, you want to wear the clothing that's normally typified for some of the opposite sex, and call yourself by whatever name you want. Fill your boots. I don't think anyone cares. I think people are perfectly understanding and welcoming, but not when we're all expected to tell a lie about it.
Yes, and people need to be either to take personal responsibility for what they've done, or face up to the consequences of it being imposed on them. So when politicians enable this, and they take an actual decision to enable to put a dangerous, violent offender in a woman's prison, and a woman gets hurt by that, then those politicians really should be in a position where they're facing personal sanctions themselves for taking those decisions.
Absolutely, and that is the issue. There never are those personal sanctions, are there? Debbie Hayton, thank you as always for talking to us, author of Transsexual Apostate, My Journey Back to Reality. Claire Pissell, listening to all of that. I mean, Debbie's a fantastic campaigner on these issues. And again, it's just about being honest. It's just about facts.
And I think that's what he does, lays it out there really clearly, that this is his choice to live that way, call himself whatever, wear whatever he wants. But let's not forget that other people have the right to do it. You don't need to bend everything around them and make them special cases.
Yeah, absolutely. And the lies that are told to these young people, and again, often very troubled young people, and then they're told identifying as trans, that will be the solution to your problems, and it very rarely is. It would transpire. 12:46 is the time.